The moment people started noticing something different about Peg Munson and Mel Owens, it wasn't because of a big announcement. Not at first. It was the little things, the way they looked at each other a second longer than usual, the quiet smiles that felt like they carried a secret, the kind of energy that makes everyone around them think, okay, something is definitely going on here. And honestly, that's how the best love stories begin, not with a loud declaration, but with a feeling you just can't ignore. Their journey hasn't been a straight line. It's been filled with laughter, a few unexpected turns, and those perfectly imperfect moments that make a relationship feel real. From playful teasing to deep, meaningful conversations, Peg and Mel have built something that doesn't just look good on the outside, it feels solid on the inside. And now, that feeling is growing into something even bigger. Lately, the conversation around them has shifted. It's no longer just about chemistry or connection, it's about the future. A shared future, the kind that includes plans, dreams, and yes, possibly a wedding. But if you expect a typical, predictable love story, think again, because Peg and Mel don't do typical. Their dynamic is what makes everything so interesting. Peg brings that warm, grounded energy, the kind of person who knows how to turn a simple moment into something meaningful. She's thoughtful, emotionally aware, and has a way of making people feel seen without even trying. Mel, on the other hand, adds that spark, a little bit of charm, a little bit of humor, and just enough unpredictability to keep things exciting. He's the kind of guy who can turn a serious conversation into a laugh within seconds, but also knows exactly when to be sincere. Put them together, and what you get is a balance that just works. And that balance is exactly what's making people believe this could be something long-term. Recently, when the topic of the future came up, there was a noticeable shift in tone. It wasn't vague or uncertain. It was thoughtful, intentional, like two people who have actually taken the time to think about what comes next. They didn't rush into big promises. Instead, they talked about what matters, building a life that feels right for both of them. A life where they can still laugh at each other's jokes, support each other's dreams, and maybe argue over the most random things, like what movie to watch or who forgot to text back first, because let's be honest, that's the real stuff that makes a relationship last. There's also something refreshingly honest about the way they approach love. They're not trying to present a perfect image, they're just being themselves, and somehow that makes everything feel even more romantic. At one point, Mel joked about how he never expected to be thinking about wedding plans this seriously, and the way Peg reacted, that soft smile, that playful look, it said everything without saying a word. It's that kind of connection that makes people stop scrolling and start paying attention. But beyond the jokes and lighthearted moments, there's a deeper layer to this story. They've both experienced life. They understand what it means to take risks, to open up, to trust someone else with your heart. And that kind of understanding doesn't come overnight. It's built over time, through experiences that shape who you are. So when they talk about a future together, it doesn't feel rushed, it feels earned. There's been talk about what their ideal wedding might look like, not in a detailed, over-the-top way, but in a way that reflects who they are as a couple, something meaningful, something personal, something that feels like them. Not necessarily a grand, extravagant event, but a celebration filled with love, laughter, and the people that matter most. And honestly, that might be the most romantic part of all. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how big the wedding is, it's about the connection between two people who genuinely enjoy being together. And Peg and Mel, they clearly do. Of course, no relationship is complete without a little humor, and these two have plenty of it. There are moments where Mel's playful side comes out in full force, teasing Peg in a way that's impossible to take seriously. And Peg, she doesn't just go along with it, she fires right back, often leaving Mel laughing at his own jokes. It's that back-and-forth energy that keeps things fun, that reminds everyone that love doesn't always have to be serious. Sometimes it's about sharing a laugh over something completely ridiculous. And those moments, they matter more than people realize. Because when you can laugh together, you can get through just about anything. As their story continues to unfold, people are starting to see something special here. Not just a couple that looks good together, but a couple that feels right together. There's a difference, and that difference is what's turning curiosity into genuine excitement. What will their next step be? Will they take things to the next level sooner than expected, or will they continue building their relationship at their own pace, enjoying every moment along the way? Whatever happens, one thing is clear. They're not just thinking about the present anymore. They're thinking about forever. And that idea, that possibility, is what has everyone watching closely. Because in a world where relationships can sometimes feel rushed or superficial, Peg Munson and Mel Owens are showing something different, something real, something that grows naturally, evolves over time, and becomes stronger with every shared moment. And maybe that's why their story feels so relatable. It's not about perfection, it's about connection. It's about two people finding each other, learning about each other, and slowly realizing that what they have might be worth holding on to for a very long time. So whether their wedding plans become a reality sooner or later, one thing is certain: the journey they're on right now is already something special. And honestly, that's what makes this story worth following, because sometimes the most exciting part isn't the big moment at the end, it's everything that leads up to it. As the conversations around their future continue to grow, something even more interesting starts to unfold between Peg Munson and Mel Owens. A deeper sense of comfort that only comes when two people truly begin to understand each other. It's no longer just about the exciting what-if moments. It's about the quiet, we've got this feeling. You can see it in the way they handle everyday situations, the small check-ins, the subtle support, the unspoken understanding that says, I'm here, no matter what. And honestly, those moments might not seem dramatic, but they're the foundation of something lasting. There's been talk that the two have started blending more of their daily routines together, not in a forced way, but naturally, like it just makes sense. Morning coffee conversations turning into long afternoon chats, simple plans somehow becoming the best part of their day. And then there are those little disagreements, because yes, even couples like Peg and Mel have them. But here's the difference. They don't turn those moments into drama. Instead, they turn them into laughter. Mel might say something a little too confident, thinking he's absolutely right, only for Peg to raise an eyebrow and gently prove him wrong. And instead of tension, it ends with both of them laughing, the kind of laughter that actually brings people closer. It's playful, it's real, and it shows just how comfortable they've become with each other. At the same time, there's a growing sense that they're starting to think more seriously about merging their lives, not just emotionally, but practically too. Things like where they'd want to spend most of their time, what kind of environment they both feel happiest in, even the small details, like how they imagine their future home feeling. Not perfect, not staged, just warm, welcoming, and full of life. There's even been lighthearted talk about how they'd handle shared responsibilities, and let's just say Mel seems very confident in his skills, while Peg might not be fully convinced just yet. But again, that's what makes it fun, because behind the jokes, there's something meaningful happening. They're learning how to build a life together piece by piece. And when the topic of a wedding comes up again, it feels different this time. Less like a distant idea and more like a real possibility. There's this quiet excitement in the way they talk about it now. Not rushed, not pressured, just a shared curiosity about what that day could look like. Would it be something intimate with only their closest circle, or would they surprise everyone and go for something a little bigger, a little more celebratory? One thing's for sure, they both seem to agree on one important detail. It has to feel like them. Authentic, joyful, and filled with moments that actually matter. Mel has hinted, half joking, half serious, that he'd want to make it memorable in a way people wouldn't expect, something with personality, something that reflects their journey. And Peg, she seems to lean towards something heartfelt, something where every detail has meaning, where every moment feels genuine. So maybe the real magic will come from combining those two visions. A little fun, a little emotion, a lot of love. And honestly, that combination sounds pretty perfect. As their connection continues to grow, people are starting to notice how naturally they support each other's individuality too. They're not trying to change one another, they're not forcing anything. Instead, they're creating space for each other to be fully themselves. And somehow, that makes their bond even stronger. Because when two people can stand confidently on their own, but still choose to stand together, That's when something truly special happens. There are also moments where things slow down, where it's not about plans or the future at all, just the present. A shared glance, a comfortable silence, a moment where nothing needs to be said, but everything is understood. Those are the moments that don't get talked about enough, but they're the ones that matter most. And maybe that's why their story keeps drawing people in. It's not just about whether they'll get married, it's about how they're getting there. Every laugh, every conversation, every small step forward, it all adds up to something bigger, something real, something that feels like it's meant to last. And as more people continue to follow along, one question keeps coming up again and again. When will that next big step finally happen? Because at this point, it doesn't feel like a matter of if, it feels like a matter of when. And knowing Peg and Mel, whenever that moment comes, it won't just be a simple announcement. It'll be something meaningful, something memorable, something that perfectly captures the journey they've been on together. Until then, their story continues, one moment at a time, filled with laughter, warmth, and just enough mystery to keep everyone watching a little bit closer. Because sometimes the most beautiful love stories aren't the ones that rush to the finish line. They're the ones that take their time, letting every moment unfold exactly the way it's meant.
Just when it feels like things couldn't get any more meaningful between Peg Munson and Mel Owens, something shifts again. Subtle, but powerful. It's in the way they start talking about later, like it's already part of their story. Not in a rushed or overwhelming way, but in those quiet, almost accidental moments. A sentence that begins with when we instead of if we. A shared look that lingers just a little longer, like they both realize they're imagining the same thing at the same time. And that kind of connection, you can't fake it. There's been a growing sense that they're becoming each other's safe place, the person they turn to first with good news, the one they trust with their worries, the voice they want to hear at the end of a long day. And while all of that sounds beautifully romantic, it's also surprisingly real. Because it's not always grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes it's just knowing someone has your back, no matter what mood you're in. Mel, with his natural charm, still keeps things light when they need to be. He knows how to break tension with humor, how to turn an ordinary moment into something memorable. But there's also a quieter side of him that's starting to show more, a thoughtful, grounded presence that balances everything out. And Peg notices it. You can tell. There are moments where she pauses, almost like she's taking it all in, like she's realizing that what they have isn't just fun or exciting, it's meaningful in a way that's hard to describe. And instead of rushing past that feeling, she leans into it. They've even started creating their own little traditions, not big, planned-out ones, but small habits that slowly become part of their routine. Maybe it's a certain way they end their conversations, or a shared joke that no one else fully understands. Those are the things that quietly turn two people dating into two people building a life. And then comes the topic that everyone has been waiting for, rings. Now, nothing has been officially confirmed, but there have definitely been hints, playful comments, curious questions, and moments where the conversation gets just a little more serious before quickly turning into laughter again. Mal has joked about how he'd feel the pressure to get everything just right, and honestly, knowing his personality, you can imagine him overthinking every detail while still trying to act completely relaxed about it. Meanwhile, Peg seems to take a softer approach. She doesn't focus on perfection. For her, it's about the meaning behind it, the intention, the thought, the feeling. And maybe that's exactly why it works, because while one brings the excitement, the other brings the depth. Together, they create something balanced, something genuine. There's also been a noticeable shift in how they show up together in front of others. It's more natural now, less about impressions, more about connection. They're not trying to prove anything, they're just being. And ironically, that's what makes people believe in them even more. Friends, followers, and even casual observers are starting to feel it, that sense that this isn't just a temporary chapter. This is something that could last. Of course, with that kind of attention comes curiosity. Everyone wants to know the same thing. When will the big moment finally happen? But here's the thing. Peg and Mel don't seem to be in a rush to answer that question, and maybe that's the smartest choice they could make. Because instead of chasing a timeline, they're building something that actually has time built into it. Time to grow, time to understand, time to make sure that every step forward feels right. There's something quietly confident about that approach. It says, we're not here for a moment, we're here for something more. And as their story continues, you can almost feel that something bigger is on the horizon, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in that steady, undeniable way that real things tend to unfold. Maybe it's a surprise that no one sees coming. Maybe it's a simple, heartfelt moment that means everything to them. Or maybe it's something in between, perfectly aligned with who they are as a couple. Whatever it is, it's clear that they're moving towards it together, step by step, laugh by laugh, moment by moment. And if there's one thing their journey is proving, it's this: love doesn't have to be rushed to be real. Sometimes the strongest kind of love is the one that grows quietly, steadily, and with just enough mystery to keep everyone wondering what comes next. And right now, with Peg Munson and Mel Owens, that next chapter feels closer than ever.